Hello everyone, welcome back to Ballistic Beacon. Ukrainian drones have reportedly attacked a Russian military logistics train, triggering a chain of explosions, damage, and a new round of military and political escalation. The incident is being described as one of the most significant interdiction operations against Russian rail infrastructure in recent months, underlining how drones are reshaping modern warfare and targeting logistics deep behind the front lines. According to emerging reports, multiple Ukrainian unmanned aerial vehicles struck a convoy of rail cars believed to be transporting fuel and military equipment to Russian forces. The attack resulted in large fires, secondary detonations, and the derailment of several wagons. Open-source imagery shows intense flames and black smoke rising from the site, while Russian authorities have accused Ukraine of targeting civilian infrastructure. Kiev insists the train was a legitimate military target, carrying material bound for active combat units. Initial assessments indicate the attack involved both reconnaissance and strike drones. Reconnaissance drones likely identified the train's position and verified its loadout before directing loitering munitions for precision engagement. FPV drones, fast, manually piloted aircraft carrying small explosive payloads, were probably used to strike individual tankers and cargo containers, triggering subsequent explosions. These strikes occurred with high precision, igniting fuel cars and disabling several sections of track. The immediate impact was significant disruption to Russian logistics. Rail transport remains the backbone of the Russian military supply system, enabling the movement of heavy equipment, ammunition, and fuel to the front lines. Damage to even a small section of railway can delay entire convoys, slow replenishment, and create bottlenecks in supply distribution. In a war defined by attrition and logistics, such strikes carry consequences that extend far beyond their physical damage. Ukrainian defense sources claim the targeted train was carrying critical supplies for armored units operating in occupied territories. Satellite images released by independent analysts appear to confirm that the attack caused multiple tank cars to explode, spreading fire across adjacent wagons. Russian emergency teams reportedly reached the scene within hours, working to extinguish fires and restore the track, but operations in the region were halted temporarily. This operation is part of a broader Ukrainian campaign focused on deep interdiction, striking fuel depots, ammunition trains, and military warehouses far behind the immediate front. These attacks aim to degrade Russia's logistical depth and reduce its ability to sustain large-scale offensive actions. Over recent months, Ukraine has dramatically expanded its use of long-range drones and special reconnaissance units to hit infrastructure targets inside Russian territory, testing both air defenses and political resolve. From a tactical standpoint, the attack demonstrates how the proliferation of small drones has changed the character of modern warfare. Drones once considered auxiliary tools for reconnaissance have evolved into direct strike assets capable of inflicting strategic damage. A handful of low-cost drones can now destroy millions of dollars worth of fuel, ammunition, or transport capacity. For Ukraine, this is a high-value asymmetric tactic, one that offsets Russia's superior industrial base and missile stockpiles. For Russia, the attack represents a growing vulnerability. The country's reliance on fixed rail lines makes its logistics predictable and easier to target. Each successful strike forces Moscow to invest in better protection, including electronic warfare systems, short-range air defense, and repair teams. Yet even with those measures, the vast scale of the network and the increasing reach of Ukrainian drones make full protection impossible. The Russian Ministry of Defense has condemned the strike as an act of terrorism and vowed to retaliate. Military commentators in Moscow are calling for reinforced air defenses over rail corridors, particularly in the border regions. Additional counter-drone equipment is being deployed, including mobile jamming systems capable of disrupting drone communications. However, the challenge remains that most drones operate at low altitude and close range, giving defenders only seconds to react. Electronic warfare offers partial protection. Russia has invested heavily in signal jamming and GPS interference to misdirect or disable Ukrainian drones. Yet Ukrainian forces continue to adapt, integrating multiple guidance systems and redundancy features that allow drones to navigate even under jamming conditions. The dynamic has become a constant contest between offensive innovation and defensive adaptation. The economic implications are also significant. Rail is not only central to Russian military supply chains, but also to its civilian economy. Every attack that halts a freight corridor disrupts commercial traffic, raises security costs, and signals internal vulnerability. Insurance and transport companies are already reporting delays and diversions in regions close to the border. The visual impact of burning trains and destroyed rail lines also serves as a powerful psychological and propaganda tool for Ukraine, reinforcing narratives of Russian weakness. Beyond the battlefield, this incident raises questions about escalation and proportionality. Strikes on logistics within internationally recognized Russian territory blur the boundary between defensive and offensive warfare. Kiev argues that any infrastructure directly supporting Russian combat operations constitutes a legitimate target. Moscow insists such actions justify broader retaliatory strikes on Ukrainian infrastructure, potentially deepening the cycle of escalation. Military analysts suggest this will not be an isolated event. As Ukraine seeks to erode Russia's strategic depth, similar strikes against depots, refineries, and transport hubs are expected to continue. The focus is shifting from front-line engagements to the enemy's sustainment base, the pipelines, railways, and storage depots that make prolonged warfare possible. This marks a shift towards a deeper, more systemic form of warfare in which logistics are as critical as territorial control. In terms of immediate consequences, the attack forced Russian commanders to reroute fuel deliveries, creating logistical congestion in multiple sectors. Repair teams had to operate under heightened security, while nearby military installations were placed on alert for potential follow-up strikes. Ukrainian reconnaissance units reportedly monitored the area for hours after the initial explosions, possibly gathering data on Russian emergency responses and defense deployment patterns. The success of this operation will likely encourage Ukraine to expand drone strikes on transport infrastructure. Advances in autonomous navigation, low-visibility flight paths, and extended range have made it possible for Ukraine to reach targets hundreds of kilometers from the front. The psychological and operational effects of such long-distance strikes far outweigh their material cost. They demonstrate that even areas previously considered safe are now within reach. On the other side, Russia may intensify countermeasures, deploying more air defense assets and increasing aerial patrols over critical corridors. Security around rail networks will tighten, with more convoys escorted by armored vehicles or equipped with counter-drone sensors. Moscow may also prioritize retaliatory strikes against Ukrainian energy and transport systems, aiming to re-establish deterrence through reciprocal escalation. The humanitarian and legal aspects remain contentious. Both sides claim to target only military assets, yet the dual-use nature of railways complicates the issue. Civilian trains often share routes with military convoys, and the risk of collateral damage is substantial. International observers are urging independent verification of such strikes to ensure compliance with the laws of armed conflict. From a strategic viewpoint, this incident highlights how logistics have become both a weapon and a target. In contemporary warfare, victory increasingly depends not on seizing ground, but on sustaining movement, fuel, ammunition, and manpower. Destroying a single train can paralyze entire units, slow offensives, and erode morale. The drone attack on this Russian train exemplifies that evolving reality. In the coming weeks, intelligence analysts expect a renewed emphasis on rail security, both physical and digital. Cyber warfare may also play a growing role, as both sides attempt to disrupt signaling systems, communications, and supply chain management. The line between electronic and kinetic warfare continues to blur, with drones serving as the most visible manifestation of that hybrid battlefield. The wider implication for global military observers is clear. The age of cheap, precise, and expendable strike systems has arrived. Armies built on heavy infrastructure and predictable supply routes now face adversaries capable of reaching deep into their rear areas. The Ukrainian operation against the Russian train is a case study in how tactical innovation can undermine strategic assumptions. For now, Russia will repair, reinforce, and retaliate. Ukraine will refine, expand, and adapt. The struggle between these two forces, one defending a vast supply network, the other attacking it with precision and persistence, will continue to shape the war's trajectory. The burning train, the black plume of smoke, and the disrupted railway are not just images of destruction. They are symbols of a new form of warfare, one defined by reach, resilience, and relentless adaptation. Both sides know that every fuel line, every train, and every depot can determine the outcome of future battles. This concludes today's analysis. Stay tuned for continuous updates and in-depth military assessments only on Ballistic Beacon, where we bring you the latest developments from the world's most critical conflict zones.